So welcome and thank you for joining me today. Marie Barclay here from I Am Still Standing. So I hope your morning is going well. I was saying earlier that last night I went to bed at about 3:30 in the morning. Don't ask me why. And this morning I was up at about 6:30. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm here. I've showed up. I've turned up, and I'm ready to, as I promised, I'm going to give you my 3 hacks to be confident and to show up with confidence all of the time. So here they are. So the 3 hacks to be confident, or that I use, is that when meeting or speaking to someone for the first time, I speak to them as if they're your best friend, right? You know that exuberance and excitement when you speak with a friend. Use that with everyone, whether it's on the phone or in person, and always add something of value. You want to make the most of the phone call cost. So you're going to do everything that you can to provide value for the person that you meet or that you speak to on the phone. Number 2 is plan your day the night before. So be prepared, so you use your time wisely. Therefore, you're more confident and you're not flustered or disorganized and searching for what to do or what to say. So the night prior, I write down in my journal 3 things that I must do. So I plan my day around finalizing these 3 things. And so, for example, in an entry of mine last week, number 1 was to speak with and serve 10 people. And there are so many people, I said earlier, dealing with anxiety and depression and fear, right, during this lockdown period. And I find that people are dying to have a conversation, with me to find out what I'm doing, and therefore I can find out what they're doing as well. And God said that we must open our mouths to be able to serve others. And that's exactly what I'm doing here on this live today. And number 2, I had down to complete the podcast editing for the episode 3 guest. And number 3 was compile and post 7 days of content on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So number 3 is I spend a minimum of 1 hour on myself every single day. And for me, it's the first 90 minutes of the day. So I do a mixture of prayer, meditation, and journaling, and I add exercise every second day to my routine. And lately I've been exercising in the middle of the day. I mean, this morning I went out in the morning, not long after I prayed, but I find that it's, in the middle of the day, it's actually helping my current schedule. And it assists with the deeper sleep as well, because I've not sort of been sleeping as well as what I should be. And it's also a great reward when you say that you've got something to do at lunchtime or you've got a run to do in the evening. It makes you sort of look forward to something, and it's a great reward for getting out of the unit too. So what I'll do is I'll go back and expand a little bit on the meditation and journaling. I don't think I need to expand too much on the prayer. But know that I've been praying a lot more, especially in the last few weeks. So with regards to meditation, I start off with, I actually started off my meditation years ago with guided meditation. So that was with using apps. And so one of the first ones I used was the Calm app. But now I'm also in the Haven one, and both are very good. What I'll do is I'll put those into the comments after, so you can find them. But Calm is a blue logo, and Haven is a pink and white with a lighthouse, and it's narrated by Tasia Valencia, who's a voiceover actor and someone who I follow on and regard very highly of on Instagram. So all of these 3 things will help you become more resilient as well. So give these a try and let me know how you go. And also, even if you're not leaving the house, look your best always. You're looking your best for you. And I know that the great confidence and resilience tip is to end your shower with a cold burst. And I guarantee that this will release invigorating endorphins to every part of your body, making you even more eager to tackle your day. And for me, I feel so super strong afterwards. You know, I have this fearless, you know, it's almost like when that cold hits you, it's like a numbing effect that sort of spurts you into gear. And so I also said that I would give you hacks for, you know, how to live in the present. But what I'll do is I'll go through that after I've gone through the book, the book I Am Still Standing, or the chapter that I wrote. Because there are also some confidence and resilience tips that you're going to get in there as well. So today, to bring you up to speed with the last 3 to 10 years of my journey, I thought I'd read a little bit from my chapter called I'm Still Standing, to give you a bit of an insight into, you know, from the start of my real estate career to the end of it, and the strain between career and relationship with my husband, Chris, and the steps taken to end the agency due to financial struggles and a declining profit. So there will also be parts in there that weren't published in the book. And if I remember, I'll tell you which bits those were. And so the published book is called The Unstoppable Woman of Audacious Confidence, that I wrote alongside 6 super female authors. And one of those authors I spoke about earlier being the actual publisher. She's a global speaker. She's also a mentor and great friend of mine, Nella Chickbee. So here goes. The launch of the book, right? In October 2018, and that was just after Chris and I had separated. So it wasn't really a time for me to be flaunting. I really didn't feel as if I needed to do that at that time. So, but here goes. So I'm still standing, and at that stage I was still a principal, a licensed real estate agent and stock and station agent. And so I'm going to get started, and I'll just let you know the bits that were not in the book. But for me, it took many months to muster up the courage to say to my inner self, enough is enough. From the moment I took control and ended the demands of a monumental real estate business, I rose with courage, stepping up and out of the entrepreneurial arena. I was now plugging into the glorious opportunity of an exclusive role and hitting the reset button of where I wanted to be in 3 years' time. So I'm not actually going to read everything, right? I've just sort of highlighted bits and pieces of what I feel is important, and I think it would go over a little over an hour if I did the whole chapter. So I share with you a significant part of my life and let you in on the shaping of my unstoppable woman of purpose self. And I hope that when you get to the end of the chapter, when you read it in full, I hope that you say to yourself that I have no excuse. I now give myself permission to step up. I have to be brave and must continue being unstoppable. And this is only temporary, but I have to do this not only for myself and my sanity, but also for my loved ones. So hailing, if you can hear some noise in the background, that's my son, Mason. So hailing from Melbourne, Victoria, where I'd spent over 20 years of living, laughing, and loving life after heading across from New Zealand. After dating on and off for 7 years, Chris Barclay and I were married in 2006 in picturesque Williamstown. And if you know, those that are Victorians will know how beautiful the suburb of Williamstown is. So not long after, we purchased our first piece of real estate together, our home in Tarneit, which is sort of near Point Cook, heading out towards Werribee and the Werribee Outdoor Range Zoo. And so within 2 years, I was offered a national role in Sydney. And the timing was right. And at that time, Chris could work anywhere in Australia as a national risk manager. So I said yes, and everyone and everything moved to Sydney. My daughter, my son, Chris, and I moved to Sydney in June 2009. So my interest in the real estate industry actually began in 2009. Not long after we arrived, while flicking through a glossy Showtime magazine outside a real estate agency in Dural, New South Wales, which is just, close to Round Corner, Old Northern Road, north of Cherrybrook. And so another 12 months passed before I started my real estate career. And in the next 7 years, I was going to learn very quickly that the real estate industry is certainly not glossy and glamorous. And I enjoy the flexibility of working my own hours around my personal life, the reason most people are attracted to this great industry. However, I endured lots and lots of sacrifice from my family and time for myself, especially during the time we owned our own real estate agency. So taken under the wing of a prominent and well-known agency in the Hawkesbury, I will mention their names a bit later, I was taught much of the groundings I've taken to this day. And as I traversed from one agency to the next, I was always looking for something more sparkling. That is, greener pastures, better conditions, better management, better this, better that, and constantly always seeking better. And although I resigned from 3 agencies, I was actually fired from an out-of-area agency in Parramatta, and then again at an agency in North Richmond in New South Wales, and all within the space of 6 months. And this was during my first few months in real estate. So you can sort of think, how I was feeling or sort of feel how I was feeling at the time. And so in all my years in the corporate sector, in banking, facilities management, and marketing / business development, I couldn't fathom how after these experiences and training that I'd had, that this could happen to me. And also, I didn't actually include this in the chapter, but in early 2010, we settled our second piece of real estate at the foot of the Blue Mountains. A lovely 4-bedroom home with a pool in a cul-de-sac, a beautiful spot in Bowen Mountain. And funnily enough, the estate agent who sold us the property, Michael Bennett, would later become my boss, the prominent agency being Bennett Property. So going back to the book. So by late 2012, I was well amid real estate and choosing that option from the corporate position that had moved us from Melbourne. And real estate was a vocation that had always interested me. Excuse me. I also yearned to be closer to home, and by that meaning being able to spend more time with my daughter, my son and my husband, rather than doing spasmodic 2 kilometers per hour on the M2 motorway every morning and every evening driving home. And those of you who are Sydney-siders would know exactly what I'm talking about. So on the 6th of October, 2014, together with my husband Chris, we dived headfirst into the entrepreneurial journey of being business owners. And the purpose of starting a real estate business was to have a hands-on role in giving people their Australian dream. Basically, we were partaking in these people's lives for the next 20 to 30 years. And we got to share in the delight of seeing their faces light up when they turned that front door key for the very first time. And we didn't give people a house, we provided them with an experience. And it was about the little things that we did for them to touch their lives with a big impact. And it was a great industry to learn about people and humanity in people a bit more, definitely. So that last bit was not in the book. So fast forward 3 years, And this is the time I believe I found God. So back to the book now, or back to the chapter. So on the morning of May 2017, I had an important meeting with a very close colleague of mine. And even though I didn't want to attend that meeting, I still went, because as the saying goes, you must do what you have to do long after the feeling has left you. And after I got home from this meeting, I felt really, really tired, very, very sad. I was heavy, I was dark, and I was moody, all at the same time. And at this moment, as though my body was on autopilot, I curled myself up in a fetal position on an egg chair, and I rested. I slept in the open fresh air for over an hour. And it was a feeling I had never felt before. And although I've never had depression, I would say that this was it, as it was very dark and it was very scary. And it was a place and feeling that I never want to revisit. And I mean, I wrote that in January 2018, right? So this is off the chapter now. And yes, I have been through some of those dark stages since then. On awakening, so we're back to the chapter now. So however, on awakening, I had this overwhelming urge to fix things as fast as I could. And there were odd jobs, calls and tasks and just things, right, that I needed to do. And I did them with ease and such hastiness that I can't remember exactly what it was that I accomplished. But all I know is that from that day, from that very moment, I felt a change. I felt a sudden divine shift that I've never felt before. And sorry, didn't mean to shed some tears, but thank goodness for serviettes on the table. So for me, that moment was when my growth journey began, and realizing that every problem has a solution. And everything that I'd done from this point has been or seemed effortless. And, prior to this, I had heard and read stories about a person's phenomenal moment, or name a time that had changed your life. And for me, this is not in the chapter, but for me, this is a time that that happened, and I believe that I found God, or more accurately, the time that He found me. So it was really quite a pivotal time in my life. So I'm going to miss a few bits out. I do actually mention a couple of my real estate friends by name, and I mentioned my daughter. So, so back to my real estate journey, back to the chapter. I never rushed to take a break or holiday, as the real estate role consumed me, right? And I was on and ready all hours of the year. So, I never sort of needed to take a break. Although being business owners, I think we took 6 breaks that year, which was really lovely. And that was probably a bit of a demise for us as well. But so going back to the chapter, even as a real estate business owner, this is how I felt. So I was on and ready all of the time, because when you're on, you don't have to be ready. You're always ready to go. So it's vital that you challenge yourself in an industry that you love and want to jump out of bed for every day. And I did want to do that in my real estate industry. So allowing myself permission to bring our real estate business to an end may sound simple during the chapter once you read it in full, but it was everything but. So I'm going to skip a bit. So I felt so guilty, as I had given up, and I was at that moment of giving up on the business, on our real estate agency business called Osway Realty Barclay. And that moment happened in September 2017. At first, Chris wanted to sell, yet I didn't want to. Then we both wanted to keep the business. And then late into the night, we would discuss strategies at length on how we could run it better and more profitably. Nonetheless, one of us didn't want to sell, then vice versa, and this continued like this for several months. I was spent financially and emotionally, and there was no if, buts, or whys about it. The business had to be let go. I had to give it up, and I did just that. We did just that. We gave it up, and we gave in to it that time in our life. Because as our finances roller coasted out of control, I used to think we never had enough money. And after reading the power of your subconscious mind, the way I saw money changed, and literally overnight. And this is something that I'd like you to take away from this. If you don't take anything away from this, I hope that it's just this one thing. So when I started to chant out loud every morning, right, when I looked into the mirror after washing my face or coming out of the shower, when I started to chant out loud, I love money, and money comes flowing in, the money issues started to disappear. Because when you think abundantly, the focusing on money and having so little of it becomes the total opposite. And miraculously, opportunities providing you with more money will appear. And this happened in our case. So believe in the grand power of attraction. And when I talk about the opportunities providing you with money appear, we actually had my, not long after that, this is off the record, off the chapter, a previous principal that I used to work for, Mr. Gary Rossetto, who's a very close confidant of mine, a very dear mentor, someone I've learned so much from. We met for coffee, something completely different, and then he offered to buy our rent roll from us, and that's how we ended up selling the real estate agency and or the rent roll of the agency, and coming away from that a little bit better than how we did that year. So going back to the chapter, so during a contemplation moment of should I stay in real estate, should I get out of real estate, should I wrap up the business, should I tamper with my relationship, should I spend more time on my own, should I spend more time with my son, I was sacked yet again by a female manager for being, in inverted commas, too professional. Go figure. And so this happened while I was under a contract role with a government body, as we needed the extra income to continue injecting capital into our slowly declining real estate business. So with all my skills, looks, and personality, I came crashing down again. And that time really hurt. It hurt so much I sobbed for over 20 minutes driving home from that government place in Bankstown. And it was working in the housing sector, right, providing homes for the disadvantaged or those that could not find homes. And so with all my skills, my looks and personality, I came crashing down again, and that time really hurt, and it hurt so much I'm repeating stuff that I just read. So I sobbed for over 20 minutes driving home, and I didn't even tell my husband. I did eventually, but it was days afterwards, and I had to digest in my head, my heart and my soul, or what was left of it. What the heck was I going to do now? For someone who has cried twice in front of my husband in 18 years of writing this, after a soaking wet face and a soaking top from all the tears that I had just cried, I dusted myself off again. And it's not because, it's not so much what happens to get you down or to get you low, but what you do to get back up again and again and again, right? So Okay. So we'll keep going. I miss out a little bit in the chapter, and then I'll continue at this point. So Chris and I speak about our business journey often. And one of the comments I love was when he confidently said, sorry, I'm still crying from the bit before, when he confidently said, "We haven't failed. We have both learned so much from this experience, and at least we now know what not to do if we ever started another business venture," which ties in nicely with having the power of saying, "No, not now. This part of my journey is only temporary." And knowing that one day, Chris and I, together or separately, will revert to being business owners again. If mistakes do happen during the next venture, we have faith in knowing that what we learn along the way and instigate will come from a higher level of purpose, no matter what. So this bit now that I'm going to tell you was not in the chapter, but now, 3.5 years on from writing this chapter, Chris and I have both returned to being business owners, me in the coaching and consulting arena, and Chris in the gardening and landscaping role. So I'll now share a bit more about Chris. And even though we have been separated for 3 years, it's actually 3 years tomorrow to the date, the 1st of September. He was and is the complete opposite to my previous long-term relationship with an abusive partner, Charlie Menny, the father of my daughter, who I won't spend much energy on because that's, everyone has a past, right? You have a past, I have a past. So that's for another chapter. Perhaps, I say in inverted commas. So back to the story, back to the chapter. So Chris is the most gentlemanly gentleman that I know, and I'm super lucky to be married to him. He has always had my back, remained loyal, and has supported me in anything that I set my mind to. Sorry, I'm just going to... I'm just going to regroup. Golly, now my glasses are... And I need my glasses to be able to read, right? I can see perfectly long distance, but it's my left eye that's long distance. That anyway. I just need my glasses to read. Okay. So Chris did this during the due diligence period prior to embarking on our real estate business, and he played a major part in the ending of our business at the end of 2017. And all the good, bad, and ugly in between. And yes, there was lots of bad and ugly. Sorry, bear with me. Okay, but I'm, so the good, the bad, and the ugly bit have gone. So I'm so proud of Chris and the way that he handled himself throughout our business journey and, of course, during our marriage. I'm also very grateful that we both had the guts, the willpower, and relationship strength to give it a go and withstand the storm side by side. You know what? I have not read this very much. I don't even have a copy of this book. I have friends that
own a copy, right? And got it from Amazon. And I know that everyone that attended the book launch the night owns a book, but I don't even have any paraphernalia around the house to do with this book. So sorry, as I was grabbing my tissue, I accidentally made the mouse go upwards, and I've lost my spot. So, but I'm back here. I'm back into it. So I'm so proud of Chris and the way that he handled himself throughout our business journey and, of course, during our marriage. And I'm also very grateful that we both had the guts, willpower, and relationship strength. I'm reading it again to go and withstand the storm side by side. So the principles that Chris and I adopted to remain sane during our business were regular date nights at great local eateries, because we're both foodies, Chris being a chef by trade prior to his risk management days. We would also have lunch or dinner meetings with girlfriends or inspiring female and male go-getters. I also enjoyed, so we're back to the chapter, I also enjoyed massages when my shoulders couldn't take any more, and manicures and pedicures, especially the foot and leg massages. And I know that you actually love massages now, Ciala, so I'm glad about that because it's all part of self-care. So back to the chapter. So what I liked most of all for both our sanities were the motorbike rides with Chris, and this helped us reconnect, enabling feelings of what it was like when we first met each other and remembering the initial thrills of getting to know each other and rekindling that spark when our minds and bodies were in sync that somehow got lost in the storm of running a business. So, gosh. All right, so you might have to say that this is the third time that I've cried. Okay. During Chris and my marriage, I'm talking about. So here in this chapter and workbook are my special stories lined with key principles that I adopted to end this colourful, spicy, and amazing chapter in my life called real estate. And I had to be strong in knowing what I wanted. And the mad juggling of balls in the air had to stop. And it was time for me to remove the mask I had been hiding behind and share my unstoppable woman of purpose story to lift and inspire many other people going through a similar situation. And I know that there has been many people that have gone through that situation, whether to keep going with a business or whether to end a business. So, and so sorry, guys and gals. The rest you will need to read for yourself because that's all that I was going to go through today. I didn't realize that it was going to be that emotional for me, but I hope you enjoyed it and got value from this excerpt from a small but large part of my growth journey. And also just to let you know that everyone who's come onto this live will receive an e-copy version of the I'm Still Standing chapter ale. So I will keep my promise. And as a bonus, I'll also send you the workbook that you can do as you're reading through the chapter. You can actually work through the workbook, and there's about 19 questions there that you can work through. But it's of really, really good value as well. So I'll now give you some tips. Sorry. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. I'm not apologetic about being me. So I'll now give you some tips from my workbook on how to live in the present and other hacks for confidence and resilience. And and then we can finish up and you can get on with your day. Okay, so although I'm an unstoppable woman of purpose with audacious confidence, you can just delete that last few minutes. But every now and again, I still get a little scared and I doubt myself, right? But I keep plugging into what I have discovered about myself during this book journey and also the past 3 years since my separation from Chris, and being the following points. And you can also use these for how to live in the present moment. So the first point is being content and grateful for every single moment. You know, God gave us our first breath at birth, and in death, we take our last breath. So make all the moments in your life count. The second point is I stay true to myself with grace and eloquence, knowing that I have unleashed greatness to others by empowering them to be better than what they were yesterday. The third point is having the inner power to influence others with my strong, powerful voice, because you know your voice is the most important tool that you can use in this world to make a point, you know, and to get things across. But, you know, the better the communication, the better the articulation, the better, more effective your communication is. It will only just you do absolute wonders for you in your personal life, but also in your professional life as well. So the next point is I hold the power of stillness and solace, which for me equals mindfulness and being in almost like a meditative state. You know, having the power to completely focus on one thing and not be distracted or hearing the noise around you. It does take skill to be able to do that, but I know that I have that now, and that just makes me even more unstoppable, right, and unapologetic, which is why I wasn't sorry for being emotional. The next point is I have evolved and elevated so much during the executive to the entrepreneur, returning to the executive role journey briefly, and now coming full circle back to being a business owner. It feels pretty cool going in this whole 360-degree cycle. So the next point is I have more clarity and knowledge, and I know exactly what I want, and surrendering to my higher power. And my purpose has now been redefined, and that is to work with and serve others via my coaching and consulting practice, especially working with those who have been affected by family violence, grief, trauma, or fear. And the last point is I am now standing in my power of glory, and I make decisions quickly, knowing that I've pushed boundaries and soared higher because of this. So those are my living in the present tips, but obviously also in there were some confidence and resilience tips as well. So yeah, I'd love to open it now to any questions that you might have. Ale, my soul, beautiful. See, Ale, thank you, darling, for staying with me to the end. Before I close this live, but if you don't have any questions, I'm happy to close it, and you can send me any questions via normal messenger. But yeah, thank you again, and I'm absolutely honored to know every single one of you that are in my circle of influence, not just in the I am still standing sphere, but outside of that as well. The people that I've met in Melbourne, bosses, ex-bosses, friends, and my wonderful family, of course, and my family here in Sydney with the Huff family. That's for having only 3.5 hours sleep too. That's why you get emotional. But I'll wrap up. Thanks so much again, you guys. And yeah, love you very much. And I will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.
So I really hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that, you've learned or become a little bit closer in terms of finding out a little bit more about my personal side and the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. So God bless you, and thanks again for listening to the Why I'm Still Standing podcast. And please come back and listen to future ones too. Thanks, and bye for now.